In the name of Allah, merciful, I'm glad that after the year, I see the faces of our colleagues on the security, and I would like to express my gratitude to Mr. Shoigu for hosting this conference and inviting us. And my previous message was that there is a transition period from limited threats to creating regular military structures. So military forces are to have to take responsibility and oppose these terrorist movements. I also warned the countries who stand behind these groups and who are not in favor of any international law principles, and they have to take care of their own security and stability. And it is impossible to have safe existence when these terrorist groups are threatening the countries. Today I would like to announce that the countries who are supporting ISIL and all the programs which did not reach the required results in Syria and Iran, they are reforming their previous behavior, and they are working on logistics and other issues to rearrange these forces and send them to India, Pakistan, and China, and even Europe. And some of these activities we are observing, and we are aware of the threat which it can bring, and bloodshedding in the Central Asia, Southern Caucasus, and Middle East, the increase of presence of so-called countries opportunists. Except for Taliban and Al-Qaeda, which were present in Afghanistan and part of Pakistan, we observed the development of situation with IS in these countries, especially in Afghanistan. The new strategy of the United States and Zionist regime, they are making steps which witness of the potential of the terrorist groups such as ISIL to create a political balance and to break the existing geopolitical situation in the region. They try to compensate their political and military defeats due to launching new local wars based on religious and ethnic conflicts. And their strategic perceptive mistakes can bring all of us to a tragic and endless process. Independent states are to cooperate and to create a front which would actively oppose these requirements to actually push back these groups who are trying to utilize military offenses, and they try to obtain non-legitimate goals. Everything we observe in Syria right now, it's a humanitarian catastrophe, and the terrorist groups like who are supported from abroad, and we need to see that these countries will not be hostages of tribal issues, and we would like to see Syrian people to be independent and liberated. Fortunately, the Iraq people, under the leadership of religious authorities and recognizing the threats which are coming from these terrorist groups, they actually really got the position to withstand these efforts. And international support is a really important point to stop this aggression from Saudi Arabia and Pakistan and several other forces. In spite of the efforts we have already implemented, people of Yemen were not able to change their leadership through the peaceful procedures. And I claim that Saudi Arabia, who received that red light from the United States and cooperation with other countries of the regions, will not only be able to reach their non-legitimate goals, but they are actually heading to the destruction, and their fate will be similar to Saddam's fate. The United States should know that helping to terrorist movements in Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Central Asia and Caucasus, and also launching the attacks to Yemen and helping in military sphere will not reach their goals. The country will only be a strong country if they put the priorities. All denominations, all Muslim denominations should join their efforts. There are many victims of this bombing and missile shelling, and these criminal offenses, which happens every day in my country, takes a firm stance to stop military interference, to create Yemen negotiations, to conduct negotiations between the parties in the country, have consulting and transparent positions, undertake some steps to stop this military interference of Saudi Arabia. As a minister of Islamic Republic of Iran, I frankly appeal that powerful Iran is a factor of stability in the region, and we do all our best to keep the stability in the region, and we take the responsibility and we answer the call of people to withstand terrorists and Zionist groups. We pay a great deal of attention to territorial unity and integrity of the countries who are experiencing terrorist attacks, and let people decide and make their own choice for their further development without on the principles of not interference in internal affairs of the countries. We consider that this kind of interference is a contradiction to the existing interests of sovereignty and independence of these people. Terrorist movements, which has no reference to Islamic ideas, and supported with United States and Israel, launched this movement. We also view a cyber information war, and we are witnesses of the growing expansion of scientific knowledge in these fields, and so we need to be aware of the risks which can be a threat to the states, which can lead to a tragedy which would be even more serious than the First and Second World Wars. And the United Nations and international judicial institutions should be aware that these methods are being used to terrorize people of these countries, and if there is no enough safety provided in the field of medicine, nuclear, and other areas are very vulnerable to these in cyberspace attacks. And I would like to emphasize the multilateral cooperation between Russia and other countries against American forces concentration in Europe and Asia Pacific, to make sure these sensitive regions are to cooperate in this field. Mr. Chairman, and let me also mention about the Iranian peaceful nuclear energy program. The Islamic Republic of Iran is using their assessment the data from our reconnaissance, and we have sent this information to international organizations. Except for MAGATE, there are no other routes of trying to prohibit the development of nuclear program development in Iran. And the absurdity of blames towards Iran are actually do not have any foundations behind it. And we continue our cooperation with MAGATE, and we believe that it will help us to work out comprehensive approaches to resist this fabricated approach. And this is important for military and security issues. The Republic of Iran is taking care of
we consider that American policy contradicts as a main factor threatening stability, and these contradictions do not coincide with the principle of globalization and authority of think over military interference into internal affairs is a restraining factor to establish peace and international cooperation. In conclusion, let me highlight a need to have greater interest of the conference to efforts to implement suggestion, and express once again my gratitude to Minister of Defense Shoigu and to his colleagues for holding this useful conference. Thank you.